Hey, hey, universe and mining family. Grab your shovels and your pickaxes. Welcome to the show. I'm Nemesis, and of course, I'm not your babysitter. Do your own research, but let's dig in. Yo, hey everybody. So, this one I got a little bit differently. I actually had a great conversation with some of the developers from 0x Bitcoin. So it looks like my partner and one of my good buddies, Crypto Mikkel from Crypto Mikkel on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked them out, you should. Great wealth of knowledge, good friend of mine. I work with him with Decentralized TV on Saturday nights. Awesome. If you guys haven't checked that out, you should, because you're following me. But anyway, moving on. So we had a great, nice hour-long conversation with 0x Bitcoin. So if you guys are wondering what 0x Bitcoin is all about, who they are, certainly check this out. It'll be a great knowledge. I mean, they had a lot of good information that they were putting out. So definitely stick around. I'm going to roll some film, and just know that this was not a sponsored thing in any way, shape, or form. I don't mind 0x Bitcoin, so I mean, personally, I have no invested interest in 0x Bitcoin, but I did have a wonderful conversation with them. Made very interesting stuff. I mean, very, very, very interesting. They were able to answer a lot of good questions, so great knowledge in this video. All right, guys, and with that, stick tuned. Or stay tuned. Blah. Hey, hey, everybody. I'm Nemesis.
I'm Crypto Mikkel.
Nice. Yep. And we've got our special guests here, 0x Bitcoin guys. These are some of the developers. So I guess we'll start off with Mikers. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our guests, or our people.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hey, I'm Mikers from 0x Bitcoin, the Discord, and early miner. I run a mining pool, help on software that we can do with mineable tokens, helped other teams release mineable tokens that merge mine with 0x Bitcoin. So miners of 0x Bitcoin on my pool can get both 0x Bitcoin and SEDO, S-E-D-O token. And looking forward to our discussion.
Nice.
Very nice.
Good with
Go with Jeffed Up.
Yep.
Yeah, my name's I go by Jeffed Up. You can call me Jeff. I'm secretary on the 0x Bitcoin Foundation. I'm not I wouldn't call myself a developer. Definitely an amateur developer. More into like graphic design and web dev, things of that nature. But I help a lot with the project. I've done anywhere from web development to marketing to helping create and push forward the 0x Bitcoin Foundation. And we work a lot with Mikers and Userburn, Brandon. And so, we're very, very grateful for you guys having us and here to talk with you guys about it today.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you. We appreciate y'all being here.
And you're Brendan?
Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, I'm one of the co-founders and vice presidents of the 0x Bitcoin Foundation. I do the least work out of all the three of us here, for sure.
That's not true.
Let's keep it that way.
But yes, I try to help keep the foundation moving. I'm passionate about the project, love the community, and always looking for ways to get the word out. Thanks for having us on.
Oh yes, most certainly.
You went wrong. We have a Brendan and we have a Brandon. So this is Brandon.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, man, that's got to be confusing when your guys are doing like big team meetings.
Yeah, we usually just go by our usernames.
Right.
Yeah, usernames usually work out well.
Yeah, I bet.
Right. Helps distinguish the
And
ones.
we're all pretty
everyone is.
distributed. A few of us have met up like once or in person, but we all communicate and connect through Discord. So usernames are usually what we're used to.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the same as me and Nemesis up here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nice.
I call him Nemesis all the time, but his name's Brian.
Yep.
So, and he lives all the way across the United States for me. So,
That's great. That's exciting.
Thank God for Discord.
Right.
Because I don't know what we would do if we didn't have it right now. 'Cause
Right.
It definitely helps the workflow move along so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
With this community, we really like Discord a lot. Just because you hear like a lot of negative things about Discord, but so far I haven't really had any experience with anything else, and I've had a lot of positive feedback for Discord. It's my favorite compared to Telegram and others,
Yeah, I've used a few other ones like TeamSpeak or something like that, and this has just got a much better feel to it than like TeamSpeak or any of the other platforms I've used.
So tell us a little bit about 0x Bitcoin.
I can start us up.
Go ahead.
User.
So 0x Bitcoin is an ERC20 token on the Ethereum mainnet. It's what we believe to be the first mineable token. Means you can use a GPU. It used to be CPUs, I guess. GPU, FPGA. Use the SHA-3 hashing algorithm, and it basically follows a lot of the properties that Bitcoin has when it comes to the 21 million coin hard cap, regular automatic difficulty adjustments, and regular halvings at the same rate. And I guess I wasn't around for the creation of the coin in the beginning, but there was a little bit of frustration that there was not much interoperability between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum, of course, is a great platform. You can do a lot with it, as opposed to the Bitcoin platform, you can't. But Ether itself is not really sound money. It has an inflation rate that's constantly in flux. It doesn't have a hard cap, and it had a absolutely massive pre-mine, or ICO, I should say, in the beginning. And so,
Very well said.
guess the Infernal Toast, the creator, that, hey, how about we use Ethereum, but we have a better currency on it? And so we have 0x Bitcoin now, which basically follows the economic principles in Satoshi Nakamoto's original white paper, but is completely natively compatible with Ethereum in every way.
Okay.
It's a great
That
introduction.
summed it up pretty good. Yeah, it is.
That's a pretty good way to put it, man. I appreciate that. Like you said, I love that this would be that y'all have made a mineable ERC20 token. That is awesome. That we don't have to use the ICO or airdrop or any of those other kind of methods. You just, especially people like me and Nemesis, we're at-home miners, so I actually the NVIDIA rig over there is mining 0x Bitcoin currently. So it is currently running. I'm getting like 900 mega hash on a 1066 gig and a 1050 Ti. I was very surprised by how good a 1050 Ti does.
What are you getting for 1050? What are you getting for 1050 Ti?
The 1050 Ti is getting about 300 mega hash.
Oh, 1050. Yeah, those things. Yeah, that's about right. I don't know why I was thinking 1080. I was like, oh, that's not right.
No, the 1060 is a 6 gigabyte, and he pulls the majority. But still, the 1050 Ti usually is like an underrated card, and it was like pulling fairly well. I know as well. What is his name? Oh, I'm like
Lieutenant Tofu.
no.
Amano?
Yeah, I'm on him. Yeah, that's the guy
He makes the
Shout out
Solidity Shop
to
miner.
the different, GPU,
Yeah.
OX
'Cause that's-
Bitcoin GPU miner coder.
Yeah, because that's what I'm using. Because I run HiveOS, so I'm not using Windows on either one of these rigs or any of that. I'll use HiveOS, and I'm using his Solidity miner to run on this one, but we couldn't get it running on this rig because this rig is nothing but AMD cards. So we were having a problem, but he actually went out, sourced an RX 570 4 gigabyte, just like I have, and used it for testing and got it working for me. So later today or tomorrow,
Wow.
I'm probably gonna go
That's
to bed
amazing.
a little bit. Like I had a long trip, but he got it working. So today, tomorrow, I'll be working on that as well. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. And I know
Yeah, I
you
think
said that
that-
it's on the SHA-3 algorithm, right? Sorry.
No, you're good.
So it's
Yeah,
SHA-3,
it's
right?
SHA-3, which is a next generation of the SHA-2 algorithm, and Bitcoin uses the SHA-2 algorithm, but it applies it twice. It's called double SHA-2. Some theoretical weaknesses with the SHA-2 algorithm that when Satoshi first launched, those weaknesses can be mitigated by calling SHA-2 twice. And it has to do with, they think there's a way of hash collision that starts with a certain prefix. And interestingly, so in Ethereum smart contracts, there's only the hash algorithm for SHA-3. And SHA-3 was created to mitigate some weaknesses in SHA-2, and one of them is not needing to apply it twice.
Okay.
OX Bitcoin uses SHA-3s because that's in the Solidity spec, kind of the recommended hashing algorithm.
Okay.
Now, was there any issues with the SHA-3 algorithm for the reason why Bitcoin kind of ventured away from that over time?
No, and this is according to world-class cryptographers. I'm just kind of reading their conclusions. And SHA-3 was implemented to fix that, so I think they just internally in the algorithm apply it more, apply different rounds, and apply different hashing rounds. When the OX Bitcoin miners were first released for the GPU, I was working with Lieutenant Tofu, Aslaria, and Amano to create the first version of the GP miner, and then the different miners forked off of that. And it's really interesting seeing the internals of the hashing algorithms, how it loops over all of the bits of your input and XORs it with other bits of the input and runs through that a few dozen times. So even within the hashing algorithm, it's like a container. It's just a opaque function call, but inside it's calling all sorts of things dozens of times. But yeah, the SHA-3 hashing algorithm is newer, but it's just a newer implementation, and there's constantly research into different hashing algorithms and their weaknesses. But yeah, SHA-3 seems to be bulletproof.
Nice.
It's a good way to put it. I enjoy the technical talk on it.
Is there a way to actually implement the SHA-256 like Bitcoin's actually using?
Yeah, I think so. Either through, I don't know, there might be one native in Solidity, but if it's not native, you can just spend more gas doing it inside of the contract.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. And I know, speaking of gas, it reminded me, lava. Please, someone talk about lava.
User brain, or
No, I could talk about it a little bit.
yeah, you go ahead and say what you know about it.
So Lava is an ongoing project that was started by Infernal Toast, the same guy who deployed the 0x Bitcoin contract. The idea behind Lava is you would basically gain the ability to what you'd have is these lava packets, which are essentially like a check, right? So you'd have tokens in a specific contract that was enabled with Lava, and then you could have other people sending your transactions for you, kind of like a relay system. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term economic abstraction. Was thrown around a couple of months ago by Vitalik, because some people learned that you could very easily circumvent the need to use Ethereum as gas. basically, because you could have everyone else pay whatever token they want to gas, and then whoever is actually picking up these transactions, it would take a small cut of it for themselves, and then they basically send a transaction for you using the taking your token as payment, and then themselves paying in Ether. Maybe Micers, you might know a little bit more about what Infernal Toast is waiting on specifically with the upgrades to Ethereum, or maybe you don't. I don't know.
Yeah. He had some issues with part of the spec. I think a big thing that was disrupting his development was the MetaMask upgrade that happened. I think went live a month or so ago, where when you sign something, the way that the interface tells you what you're signing is improved now compared to a few months ago on MetaMask. And I think he was concerned about building something that would work right for the older version of MetaMask and then look not as perfect in the newer version of MetaMask, where it lets you sign like an actual data structure that says what you're signing, how much you're giving away, and gives you more clarity on it, as opposed to just a gumbled mash of bytes. And I think that was the spec that he was working on, and I think he just didn't want to build the thing once, then have it go live around MetaMask updating their thing, and then just be disappointed. Wish that he had waited a little bit. So that was one of the parts of it, and I've tested it a bit. I think on mainnet also. So it's I think been question of, do you want to put more than a few cents or a few dollars on it? To kind of scale that up with those final UI changes. But the exciting thing about Lava Wallet is that it's also agnostic and would work with any token. And so it's for sure focused on 0x Bitcoin, but also supported any token. I think we're talking about extending it to work as an off-chain DEX as well. There's a ton that you can do with Ethereum and with tokens native on Ethereum, especially because Solidity is so programmable and extendable. And almost every project also, when it releases open source. So with Ether Delta, which became Fork Delta, it's all possible because Ether Delta, the original developer, open sourced all the contracts that are involved with it. Same thing with Lava Wallet. I think it's definitely inspired by the design to Ether Delta, and the way that when you make a bid and ask offer, you're signing something off chain, and then the market taker commits it on chain. And in a way, that's how the Lava Wallet was working. So you'd deposit 10 OX Bitcoin, or if you mine OX Bitcoin, maybe the mining pool deposits that into the Lava Wallet, and then every 24 hours or at certain thresholds, it would create a Lava Wallet packet, which, as User Burn was saying, is like a check that says, here's the 10 OX Bitcoin. And then you could submit that to like a pool of stakers or delegators. And we were even talking about making that distribution related to OX Bitcoin proof of work. But then there would be some sort of market structure for exchanging OX Bitcoin that's paid off in that check, and taking that OX Bitcoin and paying Ether in fees, so that it could go, so that the end user just thought about things in terms of OX Bitcoin, and then there would be a validator or market network that would commit it on chain. And so that's what and a few of us have been working on and helping test. And what's the Ethereum ecosystem is how open source it is, and how there's all sorts of other projects that are also doing similar things. And once any of those go live, all tokens that are native Ethereum tokens are all pretty interoperable. this weekend I was looking a little bit at the XDAI sidechain, and there's an app that's going viral. I think it's xdai.com.io.
Yeah.
Everyone who wants to jump in that's seen it, it's super cool. It's taking DAI, that's the stable coin, backed by MakerDAO, and I think there's a little bit of centralization. So
on the POA, because they use the POA is another kind of like it's a proof of authority, and it's an Ethereum kind of a Ethereum sidechain, and they made this thing called a POA bridge, and so you can transfer value from POA to mainnet, and so it's pretty cool. And they used the POA bridge, I believe that's how they did it, to do the XDAI wallets, and it burns your private keys.
Cool.
Right.
So with this new web wallet that's going around, xdai.io, you load it up, it connects to the POA sidechain that loses some centralization, but transactions are super inexpensive in that sidechain. And the main coin of that sidechain is the XDAI. So when you're paying fees and transferring coins and tokens, you're transferring dollars, and then the fees are clearly labeled. And so we've been looking into doing something similar with OX Bitcoin, making some sort of proof of authority based sidechain. Coin is the central currency, and we've done a lot of work in theory, had a bunch of dev calls about it. The downside so far is that centralization that we talked about, that's in the POA network, proof of authority network. And so we'd love to do things as decentralized as possible. So we've been looking into extending the proof of work of the OX Bitcoin, which right now just goes into token distribution, but actually trying to use that for the sidechain, and letting the miners of OX Bitcoin control and delegate around the sidechain. And we've done some interesting work there, but we're still in the planning stages on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you wouldn't essentially that the 0x Bitcoin hash power, essentially it's reusable. You know, you could use it potentially. Then you could reuse it, you know, a number of times over and over again. You know, where it could secure multiple side chains. And so that's something that I find very interesting looking into, because a lot of the biggest argument right now you hear about with 0x Bitcoin is some people think it's pointless because they say, oh well, you just use proof of work to distribute tokens, so they think that's a waste of energy, you know, which I think is a viable argument. But if you really look at, you know, looking into it, there's a lot of potential that the hash power can be used, because for sure already what Micros also has developed that I don't think we've touched on yet here today, that you can use 0x Bitcoin and the hash people mining 0x Bitcoin, but you can also use it's a thing called merge mining, and it's kind of like dual mining, but it's not, because you don't use extra hash power. Like essentially, you know, when you dual mine like Ethereum, and they had other coins, you know, if you guys remember, you know, what's an example that you could do?
Well, it was like Ethereum Classic and Callisto Network.
Sure. So there's different. And then too, I remember one of the Ethereum miners. You could like dual mine. I want to say it's one of the KKAC algorithm. There was a couple different coins that it would maybe some of them would maybe take a little bit of hash power from Ethereum. But usually, the more you could change the intensity of the miner, and so you could split up your hash power and dual mine Ethereum plus for little to no extra.
Google search comes up with dual mining Ethereum and Sia coin. I see.
That's right.
That says triple mining Ethereum plus Decred plus Monero.
Yeah. And so with
Pascal coin. Yeah.
I was just saying, and so with merge mining, it's similar to that, but you don't reuse you're not using extra hash power. So essentially,
that was the first tool I used. I first used
Micros.
Yeah, .rs. I used that
Yeah.
pool on that, and so I was mining 0x Bitcoin and Cedo token at the same time, and it wasn't affecting my hash rate.
No.
But I also only have 2 cards on that pool, and that pool had a lot more hash rate, so I wasn't getting very many shares.
And you could
which-
essentially you can just, how many coins would you say, Marcus, you could dual mine with 0x Bitcoin's hash power? It has to fit into the string of data, but it can be. I think we talked about it. What was the number that you said estimated?
Yeah. You could fill up an Ethereum block in
Yeah.
one way of looking at it. So there could be like 50, 100 coins that are set up in that way. And then I think down the line, when the Ethereum ecosystem around sidechains is more mature, you could have, I think, literally an arbitrary number of so being merge mined on sidechains, where you have as many sidechains as you want with larger block sizes. But basically, the miner is just signing a message as they're mining that says, I am confirming that I've intentionally done the work for 0x Bitcoin, Cedo, and XYZ other coin as they do it. And Namecoin is where I first heard of merge mining, and Namecoin was older-ish coin where I think before Ethereum even came out, and now Namecoin's an app on Ethereum, ENS, the Ethereum name service. But the idea was that as you're mining, I guess when you get a block, you get a coupon that you can redeem to reserve a DNS entry. I think I used to trade Namecoin on EBTC back in the day. But I think Namecoin's kind of not popular anymore, but also Dogecoin is merge mined with Litecoin. And so the main networks, the Bitcoin network, the Litecoin network, don't know or care about Namecoin and about Dogecoin as they're being mined. But the auxiliary networks are set up in a way that they say, where other of Bitcoin or with Cedo, inside the Cedo ERC20, ERC918 smart contract, it's set up and explicitly says, we're merge mined alongside 0x Bitcoin. So as an 0x Bitcoin solution comes in, what the pool does is it sends it on chain to get a new block of 0x Bitcoin. And in the same transaction, also sends a message to the Cedo contract that says, hey, I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing we talked about, this merge mining that you are set up to allow. And then that contract's like, cool, here's your reward. And so I think helped push the standard along and create it and prompted the Cedo team to adopt it, which is super awesome. And I'm grateful that they picked up the technology, because a lot of what got our team interested in 0x Bitcoin is seeing how weird the ICO landscape became, where it's kind of just this ETH grab where people are paying some developer $100 or $100,000 to create a landing page and a token sale app, and paying exchanges to get listed, and aren't really working to create any real products or are circulating their own money around. So like, I don't have any specific examples, but I'm confident there's dozens of real world examples where on chain there was a token sale, and the sellers of the token recirculated their own money through the contract multiple times to keep buying and creating fake demand for their token. And alongside other just casual investors saw that happening, that's essentially fraudulent spend, and thought, oh cool, like I want to get involved in token or the DBZ token or whatever it is, like there's something interesting here. But if you also have your token be mineable, that's something where you actually are proving that real resources are being devoted to this token generation process. So surprisingly, it's you can do it in a way that's more trusted and less fraudulently laden than an ICO, and we call that doing an IMO, an initial mining offering. And I'm kind of connecting the two, but in a way, it feels like Grin sort of did that, where they didn't do an ICO. My understanding from the news is that they had some funders that spent all this money on mining equipment. And so they did a fair launch, but they kind of runs with a lot of mining equipment. And so just an example, I think, I'm not too super familiar with Grin, but that's my understanding of it, of how other people across the crypto landscape are adapting to ICOs and creating some alternatives to it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think there's just a big benefit if you're a developer of a token. If you want to demonstrate that you are really, taking away the possibility that you're going to be fraudulent in that situation, by tying your assets generation to the 0x Bitcoin assets generation, what you're essentially doing is ensuring that your token will be fairly distributed based on the predefined rules of mining. And I think there's a lot of interest in something like that, and it doesn't preclude you from having some steady stream of income, because you could a merge mining situation as well as taking a small percentage of whatever is mined, and you can even do that for a limited scale. So basically what you are now able to do is have an initial mining offering that demonstrates that you're taking this token seriously. You're only going to be making any money off of it if people are actually mining it and using it, and that you're not just cycling things through. Everything is backed up on the chain by the algorithm.
Well,
and another cool thing too I want to bring up about it, which I think is kind of like the biggest thing. Say even if you wanted your project to for there to be a currency for your project, and you were going to make it a pure mined currency, and you're going to have it'll be some sort of Bitcoin fork and it'll have its own chain. Well, another thing you face, especially in this bear market, is you face a 51% attack vulnerability. And the cool thing about 0x Bitcoin and other mineable tokens is that they don't have that worry. They cannot be 51% attacked. And I remember early on in 0x Bitcoin, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's not good. One pool has 90% of the hash rate." Like remember Micro's pool had a lot of it for a while. And but they didn't. It was such a new concept that once you explained it to people, oh, well, that doesn't matter because on Ethereum it can't be 51% attacked. They would have to essentially take over the Ethereum network, and then they would have to attack the contracts on Ethereum. And then if you were able to take over the Ethereum network, there's a lot more valuable contracts out there than than on 0x Bitcoin currently. You could do a lot more damage. It would be irreversible essentially. And so I think that's another big perk for companies or projects that want to use a token to create and distribute using the EIP 918 mineable token standard.
Nice. But
yeah.
what if you get somebody in the pool that is a selfish miner or a malicious miner in the pool? Does that actually affect the other miners in any way?
I don't think it should, right? Because the thing is, the 0x Bitcoin contract is immutable. So it doesn't matter if one person has 100% of the hash rate for any given amount of time. The contract itself can't be altered. And so I don't really foresee any situation where you could be a selfish miner. Maybe I'm not understanding.
You would just call them greedy, because I mean it doesn't matter, because all they would do is find more blocks, and they would receive more tokens. And so that, and this is over, and also too, the cool thing about 0x Bitcoin, which you can get into a lot of there's a lot to read out there. If you read the white paper, it talks more about the fundamentals of how the difficulty adjusts, but it adjusts almost exactly like Bitcoin does. And so it always targets right now currently at it targets. So if there's 15-second block times currently on Ethereum, it will target for 15-minute blocks. It does it essentially for every 15 seconds you get. So for 15 seconds it would be you'd be 15-minute blocks. So for every second is a minute. And so if the block time's lower, say Ethereum is running faster, or Ethereum 2.0, I heard that in the best case scenario there could be as low as like 8-second blocks, then it would retarget at 8-minute blocks. And so that's where the difficulty adjusts, and it can adjust up to 50% of that. So if somebody's mining It's always hard to explain, but you have to understand, like, so say it does it every 1,024 blocks, and so say you're halfway through mining those 1,024 blocks, and a large chunk of hash rate drops off that. Well, technically, it can only adjust up to 50% of what the hash rate of what the difficulty currently is. 50% of that it can only adjust. But if you were down to 512 blocks, it would look more like 25% of that. And so it's just all math, and that's the cool part about it, is the math is there, and it's just like Bitcoin, and which I think is really cool because it self-adjusts automatically, and so like right now currently the average block time on Ethereum is about 14 seconds on average, and so that's what the current difficulty adjustment always tries to target. 14 to 15 minute blocks.
Okay. So I mean that kind of. Do you have kind of a question? What would happen to 0x Bitcoin if Ethereum does fork over to BlockPal or
Constantinople?
Or they go staking. What happens to
So from the way I understand,
Bitcoin?
yeah, I can say that. So like from the way I understand it is that. So there will still be blocks, there will still be, just because it moved over to proof of stake doesn't eliminate the fact that there will be blocks and there will be block times. And like I said, so worst case scenario, like it goes proof of stake, 100% proof of stake, there will still be block times and there will still be time in between those block times. And even though you will have, may have 500,000 transactions a second, doesn't mean those block times, there will be, instantaneous block times. There will still be block times, and from how I understand and the research I've done on block times, really the fastest you can ever really get with block times is like 8 seconds when it comes to cryptography. And so I don't know, Mikers, maybe you want to touch on that more, what you know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The 8 seconds number is pretty cool. I've seen I think a blog post from an early Vitalik blog post. The 8 seconds actually comes from a combination of the speed of light and the size of the Earth. The idea is that if you have a thoroughly decentralized system on Earth, you want someone from the United States and someone in China to be synchronized. And it just takes a second folks to send a message to each other. So something like the XDAI blockchain, I think that has 1 second times or 5 second times, and then EOS and then like Tron. Those are kind of pushing into the limits of how fast a fully decentralized system can work. You start to kind of have more of a centralized system, like for the 5 of us in a room to all vote up or down on something. We can do that once we're on a phone call with a half a second delay or a full second delay going back and forth. If we want to have validators in Australia and validators in Alaska, there's just time sinks. So Ethereum, as it goes fully proof of stake, I've been doing some research on this, and definitely how the OX Bitcoin contract is going to continue to work on Ethereum forever. That's my expectation of what will happen. And the OX Bitcoin contract is on the ETH 1.0 chain. So it's in the same boat as MakerDAO. It's in the same boat as the wrapped ETH contract. It's in the same boat now as the BNB Binance token, and just every CryptoKitty. So I'm confident that it's in the right place, and as CryptoKitties, I feel like will exist forever on the Ethereum network. So will OX Bitcoin. As they're talking about it now, they claim to have I'm not a core Ethereum developer, but I'm reading about it and trying to become more active in understanding their communications and giving feedback. They seem to have just confirmed or finalized 1.0 of the ETH 2.0 spec, but it seems like there's still not full consensus on it. But there's going to be the old chain that may continue to be proof of work secured forever. They're also talking about migrating it to a shard in the future, its own shard in the ETH 2.0 system. But within the ETH 2.0 system, there's going to be what they're calling a beacon chain, which will sort of be the main chain. And then there'll be 1024, which is just a power of 2. It just makes a lot of sense for software to have that number. Sharded chains. And so those will all have ETH, those will all have validators. The plan is if you have 32 ETH, you can become a staker. And so those will all those stakers will live on a single shard at a time. So you'll have a million different stakers on that shard, and they'll all be kind of jockeying with each other about consensus. And they also, if they do make a mistake or are knocked offline, will lose some of that 32 ETH. So there's some dangers in how that consensus model will work. And that it also helps secure the network, so that you know that there's something at stake in the same way that miners have different things at stake. But yeah, then there'll also be this beacon chain, and that beacon chain will coordinate between the 1,000 shards. And down the line, those 1,000 shards may split even further. But yeah, that's a bit on it. It seems like the old chain will just kind of be consumed by this newer model that they're distributing. And the exciting thing about OX Bitcoin is that OX Bitcoin will be the place where miners can add value to the Ethereum chain once it fully migrates to proof of stake.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're so far. Yeah, I think really everybody wants to be. Oh, well, when's this happen? But I think that we're just, and I don't mind that. You know, I think we should do it right the first time. You know, so as long as it takes. You know, I think we're all here for the long haul, right? You know.
Yeah, us people who are building in the down market, we are here for the long run.
Still mining.
Yes.
Yeah, still mining.
Like my sign says, mining in progress.
Yeah, and I think that's what brings a lot of the community that we have is really organic. You know, it's very grassroots, and I think a lot of it. I guess it kind of reminds me of. You know, if Bitcoin in the early days, I would imagine was a lot like 0x Bitcoin's community. We have a very organic community in that sense. You know, anyone is welcome. Anyone is welcome to contribute. Kind of to separate the two, the foundation and 0x Bitcoin. So 0x Bitcoin is the token. It is beholden to no one. The contract owns itself. You know, not even a person has access to remove contracts from the token. If you send any tokens to the 0x Bitcoin contract, they're lost and burned forever because it was recently I say like back in I think it was September or August, Infernal Toast, the contract deployer, previously the only power that he currently had over the contract. So this is even if to say somebody gained control of the Ethereum network and they had access to the contract, the only thing they could do is call the mint function, which is what we're doing already by finding a solution and calling the mint function to send us 50 tokens. And so it's not like they could steal your tokens anyway, you know. And so the point I'm trying to say with that is, so what Infernal Toast did was he only had power to remove contracts or remove tokens that were sent to the contract address. And so like if somebody sent 0x Bitcoin to the contract address, he could take those 0x Bitcoin and send them to another address, you know. And a lot of people did that in the early days, and through the summer he did some donations to the contract address. But he saw the need to fully decentralize it, and he wanted the contract fully 110% decentralized and beholden to none. So he created a simple contract burn address, and he made the owner of the 0x Bitcoin contract this contract burn address. And essentially what that is means now that even if you send tokens to that contract, he no longer has access to it, which is, I think, you know, because it was kind of like the cherry on top, you know. It was just saying, hey, you know, like, I'm doing this in the sake of decentralization, and this is, you know, my final gift to the project, you know. he's still around. Like I said, he's working on all different things. He kind of comes and goes, but it seems like whenever he has his head down coding for a while, he always comes back to something cool, you know. So he's still a very active member in the community. But as I say, you know, this crypto winter it's getting pretty cold right now. So you know, you see people coming, you see people coming and going a lot less than you used to. But I think the heart is still there in our community, essentially, too, to be able to survive and withstand kind of this crypto winter. And the foundation, as I touched on that, we essentially created ourselves. We're made up of some early developers who helped out with 0x Bitcoin. There's just community fans, 0x Bitcoin fans, like-minded individuals who said, hey, you know, we believe that this token is fully decentralized, it's beholden to none, but we'd like to help develop and further and encourage people to develop and use 0x Bitcoin as the main currency on their dApps in the future. And so we created a 0x Bitcoin Foundation to start and to one day hope to be able to help fund projects, help community fundraising, help get us on exchanges. And so we have a little more discrepancy on what happens inside the foundation. You know, we just recently decided to open it up to more people, and so we're also taking. We have a questionnaire you can fill out that we're going to release pretty soon for people who might want to, you know, want to help out or have ideas. And if you want to create your own foundation, you're more than willing to as well. This is an open community, and that's what I love about it. And I think that's what attracts people to it. You know?
How is the foundation earning revenue back in to keep everything going?
Yeah, that's a good question, Brandon. Why don't you talk about that? Oh,
Yes,
hey, your mic.
Your mic's off.
Yeah, we don't hear you.
Your mic's off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes.
Yeah, we got you, bro.
You don't hear me now either?
I hear you now.
No, we do. Good. We do.
Good. We hear you.
I think
No,
in the
we
beginning
don't
a
hear
lot of
you.
the fun.
Okay, we do. Never mind. It was my fault. My connection's bad. Go ahead.
In the beginning, a lot of the funding came from donations. People would point their miners at the contract address itself, either on purpose or by accident, actually. And those tokens were controlled by Infernal Toast, since he's the one who controlled the contract address. He had the key. As Jeff mentioned, the contract ownership was since burned, so any tokens sent to the contract are now gone forever. But there's some 0x Bitcoin tokens still available, and then a lot of it is basically just donations. Right now, we don't have a formal revenue stream from anything we sell or develop. In the future, that's something we're open to. Right now, I think we're trying not to be an entity, if that makes sense to you. It would kind of be a shame for the community members to feel like they no longer have a say, since now there's this foundation. It feels like they basically have ultimate control over all things. So we're taking it slow. We're trying to make connections with miners, make connections with projects in the space, and see if we can try to help beneficial. Obviously, a point of contact for media is helpful. That's one reason we have the foundation.
Yeah. Jeff,
Michael.
I wasn't gonna let this hang forever. I kind of said, oh, he's not a developer, but he built this awesome new website for us, oxbitcoin.foundation. You can
I had a lot of hope.
learn about the token. There's a media pack, just like logos and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually
there's
checked
also
it out. That was actually really nice.
Yeah, you did a great job, Jeff.
Thanks, dude. And then I also made another site for anybody interested in listening. It's called. Which one did you say? The foundation? Okay, yeah. So that's the foundation site. But I also made another site called mineabletoken.world, and it's just mineabletoken.world. And that one just talks more about the EIP 918, which is the Ethereum Improvements Protocol and proposals. And that's and that talks about because EIP 918, which we can talk more about that if you guys want. Or So yeah, so from how I know, I wasn't around when EIP when it came out. I hadn't known of 0x Bitcoin yet. But I'll just touch on the beginning, and then I can let Micros step in. But from how I understand it, is that so Infernal Toast created 0x Bitcoin in the beginning, and like I said, there was a handful, quite a few miners from the very beginning, which is really cool, and it helped the kind of the view of decentralized spread a lot more as far as this token goes, and what people associated it with. And so the mineable token, a couple of the developers, Micers, and a few others, the other guy Lodge, Toast, and there was a few guys in the community at the time. They wanted to create an Ethereum improvements proposal, which was a mineable token standard for Ethereum, and it's essentially the same as what the 0x Bitcoin contract is. There's a few minor, small changes to it, but it's essentially the same. And if Micros wants to talk more about that.
Sure. So Ethereum is, in a sense, an open source project. It's also they did a bunch of fundraising and blah blah, but also the community part of it is open. So you can go on GitHub, connect to the project, the EIP project, and make a pull request that says here's the thing, and I want the community to acknowledge it and merge it into the list of other things. And so when you throw around ERC20 tokens, that just was the 20th one of those lists that they made, was having a token on this smart contract process. And every now and then you read about other things like a new token that's 20 times faster than ERC20, and something like that is just someone wrote another EIP, ERC are essentially interchangeable, and it's just a spec for defining a standard on Ethereum. And so the mineable token standard, after 0x Bitcoin, I think, was live and being mined by hundreds of people, I think we realized this was the thing, and that we could just create this write-up for it. So we defined essentially translating the 0x Bitcoin interface, and the primary one is the mint method. And there's also different variables associated with it, like the total number of tokens that are in the supply, how often it adjusts its difficulty, and things like that. So we created this programming specification for it. And then I think, I forget the timing, maybe March, all kind of on the same time, that EIP request got merged in, and the token went live on CoinMarketCap.
It was like June, the beginning of June, we went on CoinMarketCap.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, part of that is just a spec so that future tokens, whether it's CETO, whether it's, if there's any viewers out there that are thinking of launching their own mineable token, it's just a standard that they can follow. And just vibing off of some of the stuff Jeff said earlier is that is super core to 0x Bitcoin. And I'll take it a little further in that it's one of the only crypto assets that is fully mineable, purely decentralized, and not 51% attackable. Especially if you're trying to launch a token or a coin that's any of those things, this gives a really good framework, this mineable token framework, for launching your idea. And whether it's part of an ICO, whether it's a new token for cards or whatever whatever thing it is, if it's something I want to do down the line, I think if 0x Bitcoin becomes larger, something where it's another merged mineable token where as it's mined, maybe half of the tokens go into a fund that's used for charitable donations. That's something cool that down the line I'd like to build. I wouldn't want to build that or some rogue criminal miner, like some organized mining operation can come in and 51% attack my for charity token. So having the mineable token spec and using Ethereum for security create a small project that ideally grows into a big project, but at the start is safe and is safe from 51% attacks. So that's what I think is so cool about OX Bitcoin, is that you don't have to worry about your guaranteed security through the Ethereum network. And in addition to security, you're intercompatible with any dApps, with any DEXs that come around. And even some people have done some super creative stuff with it already. Crypto Pepe's game. I think now there's a few Pepe Ethereum games, but one of them, when they did their frog distribution, initially some of the first 1,000 frogs, give or take, were distributed through actually mining their contract. So it's a way to add decentralization to your game, even. Mm-hmm. And one of the devs who helped actually did most of the writing for the ERC 918 spec, Jay. He goes by the handle Lodge online. He's working on a mineable token game where, as you're mining OX Bitcoin, you're also mining on his sidechain. On that sidechain, you can get these sidechain rewards that you can spend on virtual miners that give you a larger virtual hash rate just on his sidechain. And then it's you can build your assets up, and I think he plans to have like a marketplace for different miners and turbo boosters and mining hats and like fun things like that. And again, the great part about it is that it's all actually decentralized and actually secure. And if you kind of go down the list of Ethereum tokens, almost all of them have some core amounts of centralization. And centralization gives it benefits sometimes, but it also has potential downsides. Kind of think about Ethereum and those tokens. With Ethereum, obviously, gets its security from Ethereum, so that it's super important. But a large percentage of Ethereum initially was distributed, just minted out of nowhere and sold in an ICO. The monetary emission changes over time. The OX Bitcoin contract is fully done, so it's fully specified, and it's always going to be 21 million market cap with these regular halvings that follow Bitcoin. Further down the list, there's the DAI token, and the DAI token is very readily decentralized, but there's still small amounts of centralization to it. Even it's pretty small, and I don't think it's a big deal, but it has centralization. And I was exploring, and part of what makes it centralized is there's a team of people who are responsible for voting for the price of Ether. So MakerDAO and DAI has their own protocol that they're using to push on chain the price of ETH, so that the collateralized debt swaps that define what a DAI token is, they need to know the price of ETH. And if the price of ETH drops, they need to do things. If the price of ETH goes up, they can set different loans. And there's some amount of centralization. There's a proof of authority that goes into that. So just something to be aware of. And in OX Bitcoin, there's no owner, no one has any special rights to the contract. And then looking at tokens like WBTC, which is the wrap Bitcoin that's going around, if you read that contract, a private address on Ethereum that can call a method on that contract to pause it, which means no transfers can happen, no mints can happen, and it just is defined as pausable. And that's fine if that doesn't happen, or maybe there's a reason where that should happen, there's a bug, or there's a government intervention, but that's something to be concerned about, that if you have a large amount of WBTC, you know that it can be paused, and you know that you also, to redeem it for regular Bitcoin, there's a large complicated process around that. And then if you look at other things like stable coins, like centralized stable coins, Gemini's stable coin, there's some guff they're getting, some shit they're getting on crypto Reddit and crypto Twitter, where they were certain people were trying to cash out their Gemini USD, and those accounts were getting blacklisted from the token. If you want something that's fully decentralized, fully mineable or partial mineable, compatible with the Ethereum network, the OX Bitcoin things and the ERC 918 mineable spec is a great option.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that it is a viable option for an ERC 20 token.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So, like, how did you come across 0x Bitcoin? What did you think about it? Just generally thinking when you first, like, what was your thought on it in the beginning?
I ran across it because me and Mrs. have started dabbling in FPGAs. We've got developed boards now, and we're trying to work our way into trying to figure this thing out. It is a headache as most times, but it's okay. And I was running across coins that are mineable by FPGAs, and 0x Bitcoin is one of them. And I was like, okay, so started looking into it, and then it led me into Mike's RS pool, and I was like, okay, and I was like, I bet that's why, because of the dual mining, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You can dual mine without losing any of your hash power. So if someone has a sizable, like a four card BCU rig, they're mining 2 tokens with one at one shot, with one go at a hash rate, not having to lose hash rate to mine a second coin, or increase their heat because it's doing it already on chain.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what led me into it. I was like, that's very interesting on that standpoint. That is, I could see why it's favorable.
Yeah.
To an FPGA, because you get to mine 2 things at once, and not and not sacrifice anything.
It's awesome.
He just recently, or Micro's also had his pool mining, because when he created merge mining, he also created 0x LTC, which there are actually 2 0x LTCs out there. So one was essentially just a 0x Bitcoin clone that someone had made as more like a money grab type. Well, there was when we first started gaining like popularity in the mineable token scene, there was a guy who went around and he just made a bunch of clones. Like there was 0x Doge, 0x
0x
BCA.
Bitcoin Cash, which
There's a lot of it, and there was usually just.
Do we call it extra trash?
Pretty much. But still, I mean, it was encouraging because in the beginning we had thought, oh wow, like it makes sense why you want to make that. Why not? Why not make 0x LTC? Why not make this? But then you have to be careful because, I mean, it all depends too, and the cool thing about mining, I think as well, is you see really quick like who the serious players are, because mining does take proof of work, and it does take a process. So you see really quick like who the winners are, and who are the projects that are really trying to build something and trying to stick around. And so every essential 0x BTC clone has fallen to the wayside, and 0x BTC has been the king. But Micros did make 0x LTC. It was a concept early, and somebody had created it before he did. But then he created it later as a concept token to merge mining, and so he had merge mining implemented in with it. And I think Micros is still kind of working on that concept. And will we see a return of 0x LTC, Micros?
Yeah. I early on thought the merge mining concept was super cool. In my HiveOS Bitcoin, and as I was hearing about it, it was the same time I was learning a lot more about Ethereum. That same kind of deep dive, Crypto Mikhail, you were talking about, where it's just like, this is cool. I know it's cool level, but I don't know all the stuff that's going on with it yet. I want to learn more about it. I want to learn what's trash, learn what isn't, get into it, have one of my small cards mining something for a few days, and then I'll learn what it is. You know, like that kind of just exciting process. And yeah, along the lines of just the internet, what that's open for us, be able to just hop in a video chat and get to know people. And so I was doing a lot of learning with Ethereum, and on, I think it was the ETH Dev Reddit, saw Infernal Toast post just like, hey, just launched OX Bitcoin. Here's the GitHub for the contract. Here's a miner. Here's just a whole bunch of shit to go with it. Here's a wallet. I'm just like, this is fucking cool. This is new. This is different. And processing it, I really like the idea of showing this proof of work hash power in a way to mint assets that doesn't make it susceptible to 51% attacks. And yeah, going back, I've been aware of Bitcoin and hodling them for a bit, and initially just into it for the technology. And in a way, 1% attacks are both a bug and a feature. It's a feature because it doesn't require any centralization, and it's a bug because it's problematic. And Bitcoin Gold had exchanges that were hit with 51% attack. There's works around it. You just wait longer for your transactions to settle, but it is dangerous. And so OX Bitcoin arguably trades off some decentralization for being immune to 51% attacks. So it's centralized to Ethereum, and it's kind of embedded in it and beholden to it. And that's part of what it is, you know, good and bad. I think it's pretty cool and pretty good.
Yeah.
And just as I was thinking about that more, you know, we're like, what's the end game of this? We're going proof of stake over time. What are miners going to do? What are you guys going to do? And I think ultimately it's really cool to be anywhere. Like I have a applied physics background, so I might be a little abstract here, but you can be anywhere in the universe, have this equipment, and effectively prove to anywhere else in this universe by sending the end result of this proof of work that you did this work. And so that idea of adding work to a distributed ledger technology chain just seems so interesting and so important to me. And having it as part of Ethereum, which over time, the goal of it is to be the world's computer. In a way that like Golem is like, that was a token I haven't heard anything about in a while. I don't know if they're out or if they're doing great, either way. But you know, that's what that project claimed to eventually be doing. But I think more so Ethereum's on its way to doing that. And so this is a native mineable token on this ecosystem. But sorry, all that to say that I was thinking, you know, how can we make sure that the hash power that as this grows stays on this OX Bitcoin contract? And so that's what led me to the concept of merge mining, so that if some crypto project down the line, and Cito's the first example, but as more and more projects come online, like what if IBM wants to launch their own mineable token? Merge mining, it's like, hey, you can also have your miners, or also for yourself, Bitcoin as you do this. So it's really just a net positive, and it feeds back to the OX Bitcoin contract. So that was my line of thinking and my rationale for kind of really digging in and trying to understand how we can make OX Bitcoin the base contract for a mineable token ecosystem. And so that's what merge mining does. And so I early on created a blog post where I wrote about all this stuff, and at the top of the blog post said, I'm going to call this OX Litecoin because it's the simplest fork and kind of adaptation or Bitcoin-like thing, just to keep things really abstract, that exists. And the only difference is the block rewards are slightly different. This thing eventually, when I launch it, be merge mineable with OX Bitcoin. And then in the 3 months while I was kind of building that out, someone came around and said, "Oh, here's OX Litecoin," and got some people to mine it. And then,
Listen, I hate to jump.
Go ahead.
I gotta run eating, but it was great to continue to talk. Thanks so much. Sorry for cutting you off, Mike.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for being here. That's awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh yeah, most certainly, anytime.
Not a problem.
Yeah, reach out if you ever need anything. You have my username. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to kind of like add to what Micros was saying about that. When I realized the potential, when I first started seeing the real potential for it, is, I mean, really, it was a beginning for. It can be the beginning for a lot of things. And when I really noticed, like, wow, this is something like really cool and can be used in other places too as well. Was so I'm sure you guys, you guys know a lot of people who there's Ethereum Classic guys or there's Ethereum guys, and I ran across some Ethereum Classic dev.
This is all on Ethereum Classic right now.
Yeah, so he actually took the EIP 918 and he implemented it onto Ethereum Classic, and he made it an ERC223 token, which is it's essentially the same as an ERC20. It has a few minor changes.
Tweaks
to
it, yeah.
And he put it on Ethereum Classic. And so there's Bitcoin Classic token, BCT, and he's taking merge mining and actually adding that onto Ethereum Classic as well.
Oh,
which
nice.
is really cool because I mean you could do that with any of these Ethereum forks. You could take the mineable token and you can put that on an Ethereum fork, which then goes to the sake that, I mean, I know Ethereum Classic, there was some worries that it was 51% attacked recently. I don't know what's true or if it even happened. It seems like something's new every day in crypto these days. But it was really cool that it made sense to me, that a dev took the mineable token standard and he put it on Ethereum Classic, and then he's using that with merge mining because, just like Ethereum, there is a broken distribution model for tokens on Ethereum Classic as well as Ethereum,
And a shout out to that project. It just makes sense from a conceptual basis. Like, I'm trying to get into the headspace of Ethereum Classic, and I met some of the people that have built businesses and tokens and that work on it, and they seem super smart and super active. So props to that community. And it's like you have this offshoot of Ethereum where you're saying that we really care about immutability. And I get that. I think that's important. And it's kind of interesting that the native token to that is from a crowd sale that like someone else did. So you have these group of, in the best way, rogue developers who said like, you know what, fuck it. Like, we're not going to give these other people their money back because it's cool. Like, this is crypto. We're all pirates. Like, we're all super cutthroat. We can fork this. So let's just do it. And so to have a base currency on that ecosystem of, badasses that, having an extra option that's pure mineable, that lives within the ecosystem just seems like a really cool concept to me. So
it is interesting. Most certainly.
I always joke with the Ethereum Classic developers that I know because they like to say, like, kind of as a joke and kind of a sting, like, oh, I gotcha type of sort of thing. They like to say, well, Ethereum is testnet for Ethereum Classic. That's what they like to say because it's the original chain. Ethereum Classic is technically the original.
The original,
yep. They like to throw that like, oh, well, Ethereum is only testnet for Ethereum Classic.
Right.
It's testing things first,
Yeah, exactly.
But like Micros was saying, like a shout out to those projects because it is cool, like the community they've developed over there.
Yeah, and that's one thing I did like about Ethereum Classic is the fact that they stuck to their guns with what their code was. Their code wasn't broken, the exchange was.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Re-entry bug on the DAO contract.
Yeah, it wasn't them. So it's like I never understood why Vitalik wanted to fork it off just to give people back their money. It's like, dude, you got robbed.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And so shout out to that project again. If your listeners want to go check it out, that's Bitcoin Classic Token, and I think it's their website's classicbitcoin.com or .org. I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyways, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, it's classicbitcoin.org, and you guys can go check that out more. They're doing cool things as well over there, which, like Micah said, it's
They're the testnet for OX Bitcoin.
Right. But we're actually like right over that little hour point. I know that like with people who like watch videos and stuff, it's like you start dropping off retention at this point.
We're long-winded. I'm sorry.
Oh no problem. I mean, we can continue. No, I'm just saying like we
anyone who's made it this far, crack a beer. Or,
throw up the middle finger. Throw up the middle finger emoji in the comment section.
Right. So I know that Mikkel here, he just got back into town this morning from Colorado. So he's been driving all night. So he's got like zero sleep and everything. So
brought back a stash with you.
It was my father-in-law's birthday, so we drove up there Friday night. So we surprised him completely. Friday night, I got off work like 11 o'clock, drove there, got there like 9 o'clock in the morning, and hung out with him all day and went to like Pikes Peak, Garden of the Gods.
Fun.
Yeah,
it
was cool. And then we drove back that night after we have a Saturday night live stream, and I did the live stream, and then I got on the road right after that to come home. And yeah. So.
Is that on the Decentraland TV?
Decentralized
TV.
Yeah.
Decentralized TV.
Yep.
I came across one of your videos before, and I like briefly watched it, but I had never. That's the reason why I recognized the video when you guys posted it. I was like, oh, I've seen these guys before.
That's awesome. Yeah. While we're still close enough to the hour, we're starting to do some similar stuff on the OX Bitcoin Discord. So we did a trial run of it last week, community chat. It was the 1 year token anniversary of the token.
I was there. It was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was at work, but I was listening.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyone listening to this video, just check into our Discord. We're not sure every Wednesday or every Saturday or every Friday. We're still trying to figure out the right schedule, but hop in, and it's open to anyone.
Yeah, I'll drop a link at the bottom of my video for sure. This way my people can find it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
And really, really, really appreciate you guys having us on. We're super grateful, very grateful.
Oh yeah, I mean this is how you basically spread the knowledge out there. It's like everybody thinks that if it's not Bitcoin, it's a scam coin, and you've got to talk to a lot of these projects and get to know them and figure out, are they hardworking people or are they just doing a money grab?
Yeah, and unfortunately there are a lot of people doing money grabs out there, so you do need to do your own research.
Yes, most certainly. I always tell people, I'm not your babysitter, do your own research.
And I appreciate y'all coming on today. I really do.
Thanks. Yeah, and we'll share this video on your channels with our communities too. Really appreciate you both giving us the time.
Oh yes.
Y'all sharing my stuff. Y'all shared it on Reddit. I seen that it got posted on the 0x Bitcoin's Reddit thread of me getting it working on HiveOS and my NVIDIA cards. So that was pretty cool. Getting it shared out.
Yeah.
And there will be another video soon about the AMD cards.
Cool, dude.
So people can learn how to get it going, because not everybody knows everything.
And anybody who wants to make money videos, feel free to, like I said, this is an open community. Nobody has to ask permission for nothing. You can add it to anything you want, and everybody in the community, if you have questions on like how to do it, or if you have questions on like information on learning more of how to maybe add it or do more, like we have a super knowledgeable, all different kinds of people in there, just people who have never even been on video before, will help you out. They talk, they just want to help,
Yeah, that's pretty much how the community that we try to contrive together too is like, it's like, I don't care, whatever knowledge you got, you should share it. It's going to benefit you in the long run if you help everybody else get ahead.
Yeah, cool.
Yep, and for sure, and it's like I'll kind of wrap it up here and kind of go through this one of, guys, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, share these videos with everybody. That helps us out, get the knowledge out, get these videos and stuff like that to everybody else. Thank you, Jeff and Mikers, for being here. It was an amazing conversation with you guys. Brendan was great to have him here too. Talking with him, I mean, you guys are very knowledgeable, and of course, like always, we'll definitely see you on the next one.
Later, guys.
Yep.
Later.
Later.